What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video. So we're talking about the iPhone 12 Pro. Now this is iPhone number 2 that launched alongside the iPhone 12, and it actually has a lot of similarities with the iPhone 12. But of course, there are some things that separate it and make it a little more premium compared to the iPhone 12. And in this video, we're going to focus on some of those premium differences. We're going to talk about how much the iPhone 12 Pro will cost, and we're ultimately going to come to the conclusion of whether or not it's going to be worth paying the extra dollar amount to upgrade from the 12 to the 12 Pro. So if you've seen our iPhone 12 review, you'll have a better understanding of just how similar these two phones are. Anyways, let's talk about what the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 12 have in common real quick. So the two phones share the same overall design language. The two phones share the same display type and display technology and display size. The two phones share the same internal processor, the A14 Bionic. They share the same wide-angle and ultra-wide-angle lens. They share the same MagSafe charging system. And unfortunately, they share the same fact that if you buy either one, it doesn't come with a charging brick. Rest in peace, charging brick. The 12 Pro does come in some exclusive colors, a couple of flashy options like Pacific Blue or Gold, or a couple of more toned down options like Graphite and Silver. My iPhone 12 Pro is in this Pacific Blue color, and I gotta say, it looks absolutely fantastic. But when it comes to any color for the 12 Pro, you really can't go wrong. Now, Apple is sticking to the same glass language that they had with last year's 11 and 11 Pro line, where the back panel for the 12 Pro is matte glass, and the glass they use for the camera module is glossy. But the iPhone 12 flips that. The glass they use for the back panel is glossy, and the glass they use for the camera module is matte. So you also get a little bit of a design language change when it comes to the glass. Now, the biggest design change you're going to notice is the stainless steel band around the enclosure. I love the feel of stainless steel, and it also adds a really nice heft to the iPhone 12 Pro. One thing I forgot to mention in the iPhone 12 review was how remarkably light that phone felt. But if you're someone that associates heft with premium whenever it comes to a smartphone build, you'll absolutely love the stainless steel. Now, the stainless steel does come with one downside, and it's that holy moly, this thing picks up fingerprints like nobody's business. I mean, if you're the type of person that likes to keep your smartphone clean all the time and you don't use a case, it'll probably drive you nuts. Now, the biggest difference between the 12 and the 12 Pro is going to lie in the camera system. For the iPhone 12 Pro, Apple has added a telephoto lens. They've added the LiDAR scanner that we saw introduced on the iPad Pros, and they're in the future going to be bringing a new photo format called Apple Pro RAW. The telephoto lens comes in at 12 megapixels with an f2.0 aperture, and obviously the iPhone will use the telephoto lens for the integrated portrait mode in the camera app. Now, where Apple really made improvements to the portrait mode this year around is by integrating that LiDAR sensor into the camera module. So the LiDAR sensor, like I said, is something that we first saw on the iPad Pro, and it will help with augmented reality-based applications on the phone, but Apple has also found a way to make it more useful whenever it comes to helping the camera system take better photos. Apple has found a way to use the depth mapping technology of the LiDAR sensor to improve focus on subjects whenever it comes to portrait mode shots. And to make things better, they're able to use that depth mapping to also improve focus in telephoto shots or portrait in low light situations. So that's pretty awesome. Now, another thing that we had mentioned in our iPhone 12 review was that that phone was capable of recording video in a format called Dolby Vision at 30 frames per second. Well, on the iPhone 12 Pro, you're still able to shoot video in Dolby Vision format, which is awesome. It's a great video standard. But Apple has bumped up the frames per second from 30 to 60. Now, whenever you add in a telephoto lens and a LiDAR sensor, and you also bump up the ability to record video in that format from 30 to 60, you probably need some extra hardware under the hood. And while I did mention that both phones use the same A14 Bionic, where they do differ from a performance standpoint is that the iPhone 12 Pro gets bumped up from 4 gigs of RAM to 6. So this should help with general day-to-day multitasking, but it should also help the phone accomplish some of those more complex camera tasks that you may ask of it with the additional lenses and some of these additional features. Another feature coming to the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max is what Apple is calling Pro RAW. Now, this is going to be a photo format, but based on what Apple is describing, it could be really interesting. So this is essentially a way of Apple combining their computational photography technologies like Deep Fusion and Smart HDR with all the benefits of shooting a photo in RAW format. So you get all the nice stuff like the ability to edit color, white balance, detail, and the highs and lows of an image. But at the same time, you kind of get a head start on this editing process because the image will be slightly modified by Deep Fusion and Smart HDR. So it's essentially Apple giving you the ability to edit a photo in RAW format, but they're giving you a head start so you can focus on things like color and white balance and not on things like noise reduction. Now, like I said, it hasn't been released yet, so there's still a lot that we need to explore whenever it does come out, but either way, it sounds incredibly promising. Let's talk about what's probably going to be the most important thing to anyone who is considering buying an iPhone 12 Pro, and that's the price. The iPhone 12 Pro in 128 gigs of storage starts at $999. Now, normally we would take a look at a phone like the iPhone 12 Pro and just ask ourselves, does this phone bring enough to the table to justify the $999 price tag? But in this case, we have a second factor, and that's the iPhone 12. It's a phone that shares so many things in common with the iPhone 12 Pro, and it's also $170 cheaper, starting at $829. So what does that additional $170 get you? You'll get exclusive colors like Pacific Blue, you'll get a stainless steel build, and you'll get all of those improvements to the camera system. Oh, and you'll also get double your storage. You'll go from 64 to 128 gigabytes of base storage. So when it comes to whether or not you want to buy a 12 Pro over something like the 12, you really have to ask yourself if all those additional camera features are going to be used by yourself. Now, if you're someone like me and you just want to buy the phone because it comes in Pacific Blue with that stainless steel enclosure, I can't blame you one bit. That build quality and hardware is just... If you don't know what this is, you need to download iOS 14.2 so you can join the rest of us here in the future with the Italiano hand emoji. But if you're someone who cares a lot about the camera experience, then another question you should ask yourself is, do I like large smartphones? Because the 12 Pro Max is now here, and that is going to come with the best possible camera system on an iPhone. So if the camera system on the 12 Pro is appealing to you and you're willing to spend that extra money, you then also have to ask yourself, am I willing to spend a little more and deal with a massive smartphone to get the best possible camera experience? So there's a lot to consider. And to be completely honest with you, if I were to go from using the 12 Pro as my daily phone to using the 12, I'd probably be just as happy because that phone has so many similarities with the 12 Pro. But outside of that, I hope you guys enjoyed our review. Speaking of the 12 Pro Max, I have to head to Apple right now and pick up mine. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Please stay safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.